Snicker of Magic, Chapter 23. I should ground you for getting home so late and not calling first, Mama scolded as she set a glass of milk down in front of me. I was trying to find Florentine. I had something I wanted to show her. Plus, I had a curse that I wanted her to undo or fix or whatever a person does to make a curse worthless. My mission failed. Nobody had seen Florentine, and no wind-chime wind alerted me to her whereabouts. Now it was too late. The duel was happening tomorrow. The gallery was almost finished. We'd be gone before the week was over. I could feel it. Mama sat down at the table across from me, clutching a warm mug of tea. She looked so pretty with paint in her hair. "Gallery's looking good," I said. Mama grinned, just barely, her smile resting like a crescent moon behind the rim of her mug. "Something's still missing. I can't quite figure out what—" "Take all the time you need," I squealed. Mama sighed. Her eyes glossed over in a far-off, faraway stare. That gallery, Cleo said around her cigarette, looks more beautiful than it has ever looked. I'll bet it didn't look that good back when Stone Weatherly painted it. "I hope everybody's pleased with it," Mama nodded. It was nice of them to let me be part of something so special. Them. Those are distant words. Mama was already past tensing, already reminiscing about a place we hadn't even left yet. I settled back in my seat and asked the question we were all afraid to ask, but there was no point holding back any longer. "How soon are we leaving once you get done?" Cleo glanced up from her quilt. Boone looked over the couch at us. Franny Jo was about to snap the last piece into a puzzle, but she stopped and looked at Mama, too. Mama didn't look at us. She looked at the door. She'd already packed up some grocery bags and laundry baskets full of our stuff. "Day after tomorrow," Mama sipped her tea. "I told them we'd be there by next week." One more day? That's all I had left in Midnight Gulch? 24 measly hours? Cleo looked back down at her quilt, but I could see her lip trembling. Boone looked straight ahead again, and Franny Jo picked up her puzzle piece by piece and put it back in the box. Her little blue suitcase was propped by the door, too, ready for a new beginning, as Mama liked to say. But I was sick of always beginning. I just wanted to be. "Junebug," Mama's voice broke the silence, "do you want me to help you with the rest of your poems for the duel?" I shook my head. "I think I need to do that part on my own. Thanks, though." "Are you still feeling good about it?" Mama reached to touch the fringe of my brand new bangs. Before I could answer, we all heard the music. Not wind chime music, banjo music, and it wasn't coming from Boone. The banjo music was coming from outside in the parking lot. "What in the—" Cleo asked. Boone was already opening the door onto Cleo's tiny patio, the one Mama never let us step on because she was afraid it would crumble. "That's Day Grissom," Boone yelled. "Oh, no," Cleo groaned. "Cleopatra Glorietta Harness," Day yelled at the top of his lungs. "I wrote a song for you, and I'm about to play it, right here, right now." "Somebody shut that man up before the police come." Cleo threw down her quilt pieces, "or before every dog in Midnight Gulch starts howling." She stomped out onto the patio and yelled, "or before everybody in this complex realizes some drunk old idiot is singing in the parking lot." "Hey there, Cleo," Day hollered from down below. We all ran to the patio and crammed out onto the little porch beside my aunt. She groaned, pulled the cigarette out of her mouth, and stared down at my gnarly, bearded bus driver. Day Grissom cleared his throat and sang, "Well, the stars don't shine and the moon don't glow that I don't think about a girl I know, Cleopatra, Cleopatra. I love her pretty blue eyes and her sweet old smile, and she loves me too, but she's the queen of denial." "Day Grissom," she hissed through clenched teeth, and then she shouted out a string of unsavory words that caused Boone to laugh and Mama to clamp her hands down over Franny Joe's ears. "Get out of my parking lot." "Then you get out of my heart," Day yelled back. He clutched his banjo across his chest the same way I'd seen Boone do, like that plunky instrument might keep his heart safe from harm. "What's that supposed to mean?" Cleo asked. "I only mean that—" Day shuffled nervously back and forth. "I came to tell you—" "Spit it out, old geezer," Cleo said. "I came to tell you—" Day stood up straight and looked right up at the balcony. "That I'm sorry." That shut Cleo up. Whatever she was about to shout back got stuck in her mouth. She took a long draw on her cigarette instead. "You should have told me that 20 years ago," Cleo said in a curl of smoke. "Patch it, mend it, stitch it back together." "You're right," Day said. "And I ain't the same girl I was 20 years ago," Cleo said, "and you definitely ain't the same man. Look at how you've let yourself go." showing up here looking like some Cracker Barrel Santa Claus? Cleo was trying to talk mean, but she didn't sound very convincing. Day Grissom could tell it, too. I should have married you, Cleo Harness. I'd marry you right now if you'd had me. The way we fought? Cleo laughed. Mercy. I'd have pushed you off the bridge by now if we were married. That's a fact. If I was married to you, Day hollered back, I would have jumped off that bridge by now. Shoot, I'd let you push me. He grinned big and goofy up at the balcony again. I'd fall for you, Cleopatra. Get it? What I got, Cleo said, is age and insight. Hindsight, Mama whispered. Hindsight, hind end, whatever. Cleo smashed out her cigarette on the rail. We're too old, Day. We've made too many mistakes now. I still love you, Day said. The way I figure it, that should cover every single mistake from here on out. Cleo let out a ragged breath. She wiped the sweat off her forehead. Maybe you should come down and hear what I have to say. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can mosey back up to that apartment and I'll never bother you again. You might as well go down, Cleo, Mama said. He's a persistent man. Don't I know it, Cleo sneered. Day Grissom howled out another song as we shut the patio door, and crowded back into the living room. Cleo mumbled unsavory words as she slid on her flip-flops and stomped to the door. She flung the door open. Instead of walking out, she shut the door inside. She checked her reflection in the mirror. Her hand was shaking as she fluffed her hair. I ain't the same girl I was, Cleo mumbled. I ain't pretty like I was back then. He's forgot. But he'll remember when he sees me up close. You definitely aren't pretty like you were back then, Boone said. He put his arm around Cleo and kissed her cheek. You're beautiful now. A person has to work hard to be your kind of beautiful, Cleo. Don't be stupid, Boone. Cleo waved him off, but I could see her real answer shining in her eyes. Boone's words meant the world to her. Better yet, I could see in her eyes that she knew Boone's words were true. I mean it, Boone says. Don't make this too easy for Day Grissom. Cleo nodded, her lip trembling again. Then she sighed, held her chin up high, and stomped out the door. I wrote to the sound of the banjo plink and the clock's tick-tock. I thought Cleo's wall clock was spin-diddly when I first saw it, but now it only made me sad. The clock sounded like a fake heartbeat. Every tick-tick-tick, a steady reminder that my time was almost up. I heard Boone and Mama talking about Aunt Cleo and Franny Joe talking to Biscuit and the weathermen talking about seasons changing. The whole world seemed to be yammering away while I tried to work. Only the midnight moon stayed silent as it peeked through Cleo's window, checking on my progress. The bone-white light shimmered over my words and made me feel like I held the finest magic, words worth spinning, stories worth telling. Okay, I hollered, I'm ready to practice. I ran to the center of Cleo's living room. Boone muted the newsman. Then he and Mama and Franny Joe and Biscuit all crammed close together on the couch, watching me. I clutched my blue book tight as I read my first poem, but the words didn't feel right. I barely got through 2 full stanzas before I was tongue-tied. Boone? I said, glancing up. You're doing great, he nodded back. I wasn't in need of affirmation, I sighed. I was wondering if you'd play your banjo while I talk. Maybe the music will get my words where they need to go. Boone pulled his banjo up into his lap and strummed softly. And I dueled once, then twice, then a third time. The first time was a mess. The second time was less messy, but still clunky. But the third time? The third time was spin-diddly, if I do say so myself. I slammed the refrigerator door shut when I heard Cleo's key turn in the lock. I thought about trying to duck down real sneaky so she would see me in the kitchen. She wouldn't see me. But then I thought about how she'd probably get after me with her broom, so I said, I'm here, Cleo. Cleo startled. She leaned down and stared into the darkness looking for me. Felicity, you still awake? I opened the refrigerator door again so she could see my face. I was hungry, I said. At midnight? Cleo walked over to the kitchen and propped her hand on the door. What are you hungry for at midnight? Ice cream, I smiled. Cleo nodded. That's my girl. Hand me a carton, too. You finish your duel stuff? Yep, I said. I passed Cleo a pint of chocolate chip pork rind. You marrying Day Grissom? Ha, Cleo clucked. She shuffled out of the kitchen. You go to sleep now. You got to be top-notch for the duel tomorrow. I got a big surprise for you in the morning. I could hear a smile in Cleo's voice when she turned back and said, I sure am proud of you, no matter how it turns out. I don't want you to ever forget how proud I am of you, no matter where you wander off to. I never will, I promised. Cleo walked on down the hall to her bedroom. I heard Boone yell, oof, when Cleo accidentally kicked him. But then I heard Cleo chuckle and realized it probably wasn't an accident at all. After that, the whole apartment got quiet again. I opened their freezer and took out the pint of blackberry sunrise. Sweet amends. If there was something in that ice cream that would help me break Isabella's curse, I needed to face it. Mama was packed and ready to roll. Even if we left town, I wanted to be able to look back and say that I tried. The beetle was for sure right about one thing. There was one memory I tried so hard to forget. Maybe I could never truly fix Mama's sadness, but I could do something about mine, and Oliver said the memories can heal you, if you let them. So I grabbed a spoon and snuck back to the craft room. Maybe if I could be brave enough to remember, I would be brave enough for anything. The lonesome light of the full moon came down through the window as I pulled the red ribbon loose. I popped open the lid. Here goes nothing, I said. I scooped out a bite. The ice cream melted, sweet and creamy against my tongue. We lived in Virginia, and I was riding the school bus home. I was so little, my shoes didn't touch the floor. When the bus pulled up to my driveway, I saw Roger Pickle's car about to back out. But he pulled back in when he saw the bus slowing down. I took another bite and shut my eyes tight. Dad! I scampered down the big bus steps and jumped onto the gravel. Roger Pickle got out of his car and stood up tall. He wore jeans and a flannel shirt. He had red hair like mine and a red beard that matched his hair exactly. He sighed when he saw me coming towards him. The way he looked at me stopped me as hard as if somebody had rammed into me. Dad? I stopped. What are you crying for? Allergies. He smiled. He reached out his arms for me. I'm going to work early. Come hug my neck. I gripped the spoon so tight my fingers ached. The ice cream tasted different now, so sour that it nearly locked my jaws. Biscuit stood up and stretched and climbed up in my lap. She rested her fuzzy face against my broken heart. Thanks, buddy. I kissed her fuzzy, stinky head. I knew I'd hate this stupid ice cream. I jumped up into Roger Pickle's arms and pressed a kiss against his neck. Love you, I said. I rested my face against his strong shoulder. His worn-out shirt was soft against my face. His face was wet with tears when I pulled back. He kissed me softly on the tip of my nose. Love you, he said. And then he let me down, and I ran off and didn't look back. See you tonight, I waved behind me. I ran inside and wrote 10 brand new words, all different colors, on a blank sheet of paper. I gave them legs, and I gave them eyes. I gave each word a heart of its own, and when it was time for Roger Pickle to come home, I sat outside on the front steps and held the words in my hand, and I waited. I waited until after the sun set. I waited even after the stars came out, and I was shivering. I fell asleep right there on the steps, waiting. It was Mama who carried me back inside. I wiped the snot off my face and tucked one of Cleo's flashlights against my neck. I opened my little blue book and started writing. What's factalactus mean? Mama's voice was soft, but it was still made me jump. The flashlight clunked into my lap. I scrambled to turn it off before she could see what I'd written. I didn't hear you come in, I said, working to get the tears out of my voice. Did you need something? I just came in to check on you. Mama reached and tucked my hair behind my ear. Then she reached for the flashlight in my lap. Click. She held the light up over my pages again. What's a factalactus? I rested my hands down on the open pages of the blue book, fingertips touching. When Mama shone the light, my hands made a heart shape. Factalactus is a word I saw squished down in the ice cream carton, glowing in the dark. I don't think it's a real word, so I gave it my own definition. A factalactus is a truth that hurts a little bit, that prickles and stings, like you try to shake hands with a cactus flower, and just because it hurts doesn't make it less true. Mama nodded. I see. I hope she didn't read the examples I'd written down. Factalactus, Roger Pickle cut out on us 5 years ago and most likely won't come back. Factalactus. The last words I remember saying to Roger Pickle were, I love you. Factalactus. Saying I love you doesn't make people stick around. Hold this flashlight for me, Mama said as she reached across me for the pale purple carton of blackberry sunrise. I wouldn't eat that if I were you, I sighed. It'll just make you remember things. I know what it does, Felicity. I heard a kind smile in Mama's voice. I make gallons of this stuff every night at work, remember? Mama squared around until she was sitting in front of me, holding the blackberry sunrise in her lap. What's the opposite of factalactus, she guessed? What do you call a truth that feels so good it's like you hug the summer sunshine? A stared down at my shadow heart hands. Facto-fabulous? Mama nodded. I like that. She scooped a spoonful of ice cream into her mouth. I held my breath and waited. The only thing worse than me having a bad memory was watching Mama have one. I wanted her first bite to be sweet, not sour. Facto-fabulous, Mama gulped. The time we stopped in North Carolina and flew butterfly kites in the park. We ran beside each other until our legs ached, and then we all flopped down in the grass, but the wind still held our kites up high. Those butterflies looked like they were glued to the springtime blue, and you kept catching poems for your little sister. As soon as she'd finished one, she'd ask you for another. You never got tired of it. I loved that day. I scooted closer until my knees were touching Mama's knees. I loved that day too, I smiled. I was glad her blackberry memory was sweet. Facto-fabulous, Mama said as she ate another spoonful. I shook my head. Don't press your luck, Mama. It might not give you 2 good memories in a row. Facto-fabulous, Mama said the word like she was casting a magic spell over me. When we camped inside the pickle jalapeno and stared up at Spiderberg, I painted new castles and rivers and woods, and you made up stories about the people who lived there. Ruled there, I whispered. We were the queens of Spiderberg. Mama angled her spoon down into the carton to scrape out another bite, but I locked my hand around her wrist. I glanced at that rotten ice cream, then up into my Mama's face. I didn't need the flashlight now. The moonlight had reached through the window and found us. The moonlight always reaches for her. The ice cream, how do you make it do that? How do you keep getting good memories from it? It takes some practice. Mama set the carton back down on the floor. But even if I taste something sour, even if the bad memory comes first, I choose to replace it with a good one instead. You just choose? Mama nodded. It's as simple and difficult as that. Sad memories don't just come in ice cream, you know. Everything you touch, everything you smell, everything you taste, every picture you see, all of that has the potential to call up a sad memory. You can't choose what comes first, but you can choose to replace it with something good. I chose to think of the good parts. I choose. I leaned close so I could talk with less than a whisper. I was remembering when he left. I'm not mad that he left me, but I'm mad that he left Franny Jo. She's little and weird and she needs people. I'm mad that he left you. I knew I'd think of him when I tasted the ice cream. I knew I would. It's fine to be mad at people for a little while. Being mad doesn't mean you don't love somebody. Is Roger Pickle the reason you stopped painting for so long? I asked. One of the reasons, Mama sighed. Someday you might get rejected. Someday you might go through a rough spell. Someday the world might press down so hard on you that you don't see the words anymore. But you're painting again, I reminded her. Thanks to you, she tapped my nose with her finger. You kept loving me and I kept loving you, and we can get through anything. Mama held the ice cream out to me again. Give it a try, she said. Even if the sad memory comes first, choose to remember something good. I closed my eyes. I thought about my family. I reached for the ice cream. I took my first brave bite. Pure sweetness. Facto-fabulous, I smiled. The day Boone wore fairy wings at Snapdragon Pond. We both laughed. You showed me the tall trees. We climbed as high as heaven. It was late by the time I finally crawled into bed. I curled up on my side, Biscuit snuggled against my back. I was just about to close my eyes when Franny Jo rolled over and touched her forehead to mine. I have a facto-fabulous, she whispered. Franny, I whispered back. You shouldn't eavesdrop. Okay, do you want me to tell you my facto-fabulous or not? I smiled. Tell me. Franny grinned and rolled onto her back again. Do you remember when you were talking at the school assembly last year and you accidentally said Great Kennedy Arm Fartist? I groaned. Leave it to Franny Jo to drag up that awful memory the night before the duel. Of course I remember. Wait, that's not your facto-fabulous, is it? Hush and let me tell you, Franny sighed. This is what happened. I was in the lunchroom and Ronnie Barnhill saw you walk down the hall. That kid was mean, I said. Shh, Franny cautioned. Ronnie started making fart noises at you. So when he stood up to take his tray, I pulled my peanut butter sandwich apart and left the goo half face up on his seat. And he sat down on it, and I never got in trouble for it because people thought I was too little and sweet to do anything so mean. Franny giggled so hard the mattress shook. That was a fun day. I guess I should have been mature enough to tell Franny Jo that picking on people was never right, no matter how big or mean or little or sweet they are. But I'd have that conversation with her another time. I leaned over and planted a quick kiss on Franny Joe's blonde hair. Thanks for taking such good care of me. She rolled into me and tucked her little face under my chin. You take better care of me. Felicity? Yeah? You don't need that bird on your wrist to do good tomorrow. You're facto-fabulous already. Facto-fabulous. My blackberry dreams that night were the sweetest.